Hello, everyone. Welcome to this evening's video podcast. So, I wanted to talk a little bit about classic old movies. Now, I just started watching a classic old movie called Rear Window. I believe it's a movie directed by Hitchcock, and it stars Jimmy Stewart and Grace Kelly. And I'm actually kind of a Jimmy Stewart fan. I really like his films and his personality, oddly enough. And I, uh, I, uh, I think perhaps what I like about it is just how predictable it is. He's basically the same character in every single movie he plays, which is fine by me because he's very it's reliable. I appreciate that reliability. It's James Stewart. So I just appreciate coming back to it again and again. I was realizing now I've seen Rear Window before. I've probably seen it a few times, and I don't know what sort of gravitated me toward this movie yet again, but it may have something to do with the fact that about how different a lifestyle it portrays compared to living today. In fact, I think that's a common theme for me when it comes to how I enjoy a movie or why I enjoy a movie, particularly if it's a classic movie. I love to compare and contrast the difference in lifestyles between today and years past. Now, I think Rear Window was released in 1954, and the odd thing is that that's about 20 years prior to when I was born. So it was the movie Rear Window is not contemporary to me or my age at all. It's really earlier, 20 years earlier than the movies that I might have seen when I was younger. Now, I can't really explain why I'm fascinated by those movies. Maybe, when I was growing up, they weren't the movies that I saw, but they were the movies that were referred to by others as classic movies. And and so maybe I'm just drawn to their reputational fame because that was when um, my interest began to develop. I don't know. But I like watching old movies, even though I've never really experienced what living in the 1950s was like. In fact, this actually rings true for more than just classic movies, but also classic television. The classic TV shows I like to watch are old style TV shows that were common in the 1950s, not TV shows common in the 1970s or 1980s. I really don't have a good explanation for that. I might have just been influenced by what my parents watched, or well, I don't really know what it is, but I guess there was, and I'm not sure if that time period can be described as the golden age or anything. But I just find myself gravitating toward those movies. It may be one theory is that I enjoy watching those movies because, like, I must perceive them as having some kind of value. I did take a few interesting in college classes relating to movies and theater when I was in college, and a lot of those classic movies were taught in 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 those um, in those film classes. Like I took a film noir class, which focused a lot on films of that era, like the Maltese Falcon and things like that. And so maybe just a little bit of that rubbed off on me. Right? It's interesting how a person's college education can sort of rub off on people. and then stick with them for years. A lot of those same biases and values and trends just sort of get stuck in me because that's what I was taught. Even though those movies are not necessarily of the era that I lived personally, and I didn't necessarily watch those. Now, that's not to say I don't enjoy movies that were common in the era when I grew up. Like I could definitely watch Close Encounters of the Third Kind, definitely. And I could watch other shows that were common. I could definitely watch Gremlins, the movie, or I could watch The Goonies again. I mean, for me, those are classic movies from my era growing up. And but I'm just as easily watch movies that were common in the 1940s and even 1950s, certainly 1960s. So anyway, I've been enjoying watching Rear Window again. And I think what's fascinating about it, like I was mentioning earlier, what draws me to it is noticing the contrast between culture today, basically 70 years later, and culture back then. And there are a lot of similarities, and there are quite a lot of differences too. Um, you know, I was, one of the subject elements of this movie, Rear Window, it has to do with a photographer who's broken his leg and he's in a wheelchair. And I just marvel at the old style wheelchairs. It's like, wow, check that out. Um, it's just remarkable. And I'm also just wowed by the old style, like norms and mores of the era. It's kind of funny. I think Jimmy Stewart was like 46 years old when he played in that movie, and he played opposite Grace Kelly, who was like 25 years old. So there was a huge age gap between the two actors. And but I still feel like at the time Jimmy Stewart was um, preparing to decide whether to get married to Grace Kelly, and Jimmy Stewart wasn't really enthusiastic about that proposition. And so I don't know, I just really appreciate different how different how different that time was in terms of male to female relations, particular romantic relations, just how different it was in terms of just I don't know. It's just something to ponder, really. And I appreciate, like I mentioned, it's that contrast which gets me thinking a little bit about what we've lost or what we've gained, right? We might have gained technology in terms of wheelchairs, but we've lost other things such as, I don't know, uh, values relating to close family relations and values relating to marriage and things like that. Now that of course there's give and take there. I mean, I'm not necessarily wanting to romanticize the position that either of those characters had in that story, but it is interesting to lay it out and to sort of notice it from a distance. From a distance, basically being in a time machine 70 years later. Anyway, I like classic movies. And one thing I also like is to occasionally watch a movie that that is edited in a way that's not edited like an MTV music video. It's like I the camera, this is a Hitchcock. The camera dwells on the credits. The camera dwells on the surroundings. The camera dwells on the actors and actresses who have lengthy parts that they're needing to play. I appreciate the dwelling, right? There's something there's something meaningful. I mean, I'm getting a sense that the director is trying to convey like special information with every scene, you know. Maybe that's why Hitchcock is so interesting, because whether it's true or not, right? Whether Hitchcock fully intended to convey something, um, meaning from, say, a particular camera angle, or the duration of a scene, I can at least I pretend that Hitchcock was trying to present story in this special cinematographic way. Even just because I know about Hitchcock and his a little bit about his style, and how intentional he was, and how that's definitely a hallmark of his work. And so I don't know, it just makes the movies a lot more interesting. It just to know that there's a supposed directing genius at work, right? And so that, just knowing that factoid, whether it's true or not in the movie in the moment, I'd like pondering whether uh, whether that concept might be true or not. That makes a movie more intriguing. I think it's pretty hilarious, whether it's true or not. In my mind, I perceive the movie as being more intriguing, which is pretty hilarious. I think it's pretty hilarious because it's me who's infusing meaning into every scene and every moment. Just because of a reputation that was built. I'm sure he was intentional many times, certainly an amazing artist. And I have nothing bad to say about Hitchcock. I am a lover of Hitchcockian movies, um, and his style. So anyway, what can I say? So I've been watching some movies tonight, and I'm so excited! I just started a new book, which I'm thrilled to start. It's a book called East of Eden by John Steinbeck, another classic. I'm not sure why I'm in the mood for classics. I'm not always in the mood for classics, but classics of literature are things that I have a penchant toward. Um, every once in a while, I'll dabble. I have a textbook relating to like classic world literature, and I'll open the pages of that book and do what I can to learn about the styles of other writers, classic writers. And so I do appreciate that very much. I'm not sure what it is. I'm not sure what it is that draws me to that. One of my favorite publishers is Penguin. And I think partly it is because of their reputation for some reason, their reputation with me, clearly. I I think of them as a publisher, and here's the thing: this is the way I perceive them to be. I don't know. I mean, no doubt they're multidimensional, and there's a lot of influences that that a lot of editors are working, and I don't know what the modern. I'm sure they have a very diverse portfolio of work that they publish, and so I really am not one to make a generalization that's informed, because I am definitely not informed. Um, I'm not necessarily one to pay attention to publishers, although that's not that I actually do pay attention to publishers. There's some publishers that I really look toward for authoritative information. Um, and and Penguin is one of them, believe it or not. I definitely, if I notice that a book is published by Penguin, I will pay attention to it. Now, it's what's kind of funny. Now, here's the thing: I'm so ignorant of I'm so ignorant that But it may be a mistake for me to even say that because I'm saying those statements out of ignorance. I'm talking about my perception only. So I guess I'm covering myself. Anyway, I have been enjoying some classic literature lately. And by the way, this book, East of Eden, at least the first couple chapters are pretty incredible. I'm really loving it. What I love about it is the locality, how local the book is and the story is, because, hey, Salinas is just a few miles north of where I am, and so that's pretty exciting. So I can relate to all the paragraphs about that describe the landscape of the area that he's talking about, and I'm really enjoying Steinbeck's style. I've always kind of enjoyed Steinbeck's style. Of Mice and Men was a standout book for me when I was growing up, and certainly there are also so many others. Also, what is it? I forget what the Grapes of Wrath, of course. That was also another standout book for me. And of course, I've been to the John Steinbeck Museum, which is in Salinas, I think. And in fact, I've been more than once to the John Steinbeck Museum. I've been a few times and definitely enjoy his work. And that museum is really awesome. It's really fantastic. And in fact, I've been to Cannery Row in Monterey, or near Monterey. I guess it's in it. And there are also some great, like, I don't know, really interesting sights to see there. So I think I have been interested in touring California recently. Like I mentioned earlier, I've been focused on the rivers, but the rivers of California. But for the longest time, I've also been interested in touring major libraries and bookstores throughout the state of California, and doing so with the theme, in addition with the theme of sort of following certain artists, like say Jack London when I go to wine country. Anyway, is it Jack London? I think so. I think there's some association. I might need to check myself there. But yeah, I would like to take a tour of California and focus on the authors that originated in certain areas of California, and see if I can find memorials or perhaps burial places where those authors have been buried, and just I don't know, that sounds really interesting to me. Just do a little tour, a theme tour, a very classic literature theme tour in the state of California. I don't know, that sounds really cool. I could definitely do that in a 3-day weekend. And there are books related to significant cultural times in the history of California relating to the gold rush and things like that. There are stories relating to, so many cool things, so many cool books, that relate to California. And I don't know, I think they'd be fun to travel around, do some exploring. And I could pair that exploration with artificial intelligence, which sounds amazing to me. So I could be walking through a park or walking through a mountain pass or something on a trail with AI in my ear, walking and talking about particular authors in California. That just sounds like an amazing thing to do. I'm just excited thinking and talking about just doing that one thing. It seems pretty lame, but I'm definitely into it. And it's kind of, I think what I want to do is maybe this fall or this winter, I will take a trip up to Gold Rush country here in the state of California, and do what I can to immerse myself in what it was like to be living as a minor 49er, in rush country in California, and reading excerpts and chapters, and maybe even drawing drawings of significant buildings and I don't know, just the various places, maybe some of the natural history. I could find like significant streams where they found gold for the first time. I mean, that sounds pretty cool to me. I'm totally serious. And John John Muir. There's like John Muir Woods up near San Francisco, and there's all kinds of things I could read John Muir and travel to Yosemite. You know, complete with artificial intelligence in my ear, sort of summarizing some important stories and some of his life. And I don't know, it just sounds wonderful. It's like living life in a museum, which I love. I love museums. I can go to museum after museum and just, that just sounds like, if I ever retire, and I'm not saying I will, but if I ever retire, that's the kind of thing I'd like to do. I'd like to just go to different areas of the United States, say, and just explore and read and write and draw and go to museums and libraries. And I tell you what, here's the thing. I am a nerd through and through. If it's not science, it's literature. If it's not literature, it's art. If it's not art, it's science. It's pretty funny. Yeah. So, as you could tell, even talking about the subject makes me happy. So, it's kind of funny. So, anyway, yeah. So I've been watching this classic movie and really appreciating it. Another classic TV show I like a lot is Happy Days. Richie Cunningham and Mr. C and Mrs. C and the Fonz and Potsy and all that stuff. Um, again, I think that show was on possibly when I was younger, but no doubt it was reruns. A lot of it was reruns, I imagine. I believe there were a lot of seasons of Happy Days, and then I also remember gradually the quality began to slide in terms of the storytelling. In fact, jumping the shark is a phrase that I believe uh, re- sort of references the latter episodes of Happy Days, just how unusual some of the episodes were. Because I remember the Fonz actually jumped a shark. It's like, would the Fonz ever jump a shark? I think he did. So, Evil Knievel style. And I don't know. That's just, for me, that's just great fun. I think what's most fun to me about the Happy Days TV series is, like I was mentioning, comparing and contrasting the traditions and mores and norms of the past with today. And my favorite episodes of Happy Days, bar none, are the holiday episodes, like Thanksgiving and Christmas. I mean, they're coming to my mind as I sort of describe them, like Halloween and Valentine's Day. Those stories are just popping up in my mind's eye, and there's just something I love about family sitting down and drinking apple cider or hot chocolate, uh, around a Christmas tree or around the Thanksgiving dinner. I mean, there's just something so inviting about the 1950s style norms and traditions around the holidays. It's just, I don't know, it just warms my heart. And now, you know, it's so different. It's kind of interesting to see the reactions to that they have toward what to them is new, but what for us is just not new at all. So, like I remember one Happy Days episode relating to Christmas when um, I think um, they're contemplating whether or not to have an artificial tree or a real tree, right? And they're just so excited about the artificial tree. But then there's, I think, was it Tom Bosley? He, Mr. C was upset that it wasn't a real tree. He wanted a real tree, and he wanted to go get a real tree or something like that. I forget. I could be mixing up a few episodes because there were other. Oh yes, there are other special movies and TV series that have that have that uh, have that very same theme. I can think of like I think there's another TV series that had uh, a very similar theme to that, um, like My Three Sons or something like that. Anyway, I don't know. I just appreciate the old fashioned um, mores and norms in that time as it relates to the holidays. Yeah, I remember like one in the Halloween episode. I forget what season it is, where there's this haunted house, and I don't know. Everybody's afraid of like who's in the closet. Someone's in the closet. They're playing practical jokes, right? Can you spend all night in the haunted house? And I don't know. It's just a whole lot of fun. Oh boy, did you hear that? So the 4th of July is nearly here. And that's exciting for a lot of people, which I think it's wonderful. I do think, in many respects, the 4th of July is a wonderful holiday. But I'm not one for fireworks in particular. Um, I'm I have a few memories. I have wonderful memories of fireworks in my past, but I do have a few concerning memories where fireworks, people got hurt, and it's a little bit traumatic. I mean, it wasn't that big deal, people get hurt every once in a while in minor ways with fireworks, and nothing. It was never really serious, but I'm always considerate of the folks that inadvertently, um, well, things don't go wrong when fireworks happen. When things go wrong when fireworks happen, and my heart really goes out to all those people who are injured uh, with fireworks, and my heart also goes out to the people who own animals like dogs in particular, but um, there could be horses or cats could be startled by the loud noises. Even, and I'm also um, feeling empathy for like children who are sleeping, particularly babies who may be easily startled, and the parents who are working very, very hard to sort of keep their children asleep. So I don't know. The fireworks are great in a lot of respects, and they're fine. I particularly love the commercial presentations that are put on. uh, and I think those are great. But not everyone is responsible when they use their fireworks, and so that sometimes I'm less than enthusiastic when the fireworks come around. I enjoy the holiday, and there's a lot of benefits to the holiday, but just the fireworks themselves can be a little problematic. I remember one time I visited Pismo Beach on the 4th of July, and holy cow, I, I was definitely close to the action, and that's not a hard thing to do. Where I was, I positioned myself close to the action on purpose, and it was definitely enjoyable, and I was able to leave uh, unaffected by any of the goings on, and I'm grateful for that. And it definitely was exciting, that's for sure. And now this was many years ago, I must admit. This is easily over 10 years ago. It probably was maybe 15 years ago when I decided to go on out there and check it out for myself, right? Um, and hey, that's fine. I appreciate when people are having fun. In fact, that was part of the reason I was out there, because I love being part of people having a lot of fun, and it was a lot of fun, and it was also, um, you know, a little bit challenging in the sense that there was a lot going on, a lot to pay attention to, and if you weren't very aware of your surroundings, which was very easy to do since um, there are all kinds of distractions going on at the same time. It was just a fun adventure, that's for sure. And it's just a reminder about how chaotic things can get when people are having fun, which overall is great. But I don't think I want to do that every day. Yeah. So anyway, there are things that I like about the 4th of July, and that is I like the bakery items. The bakery. I love some good cupcakes and what themed desserts. That's for sure. That could be said for any holiday. I love the themed desserts for Thanksgiving and Christmas and Valentine's, and yeah, it's I love how it brings out the creativity of all the amateur chefs and out there, and there are a lot. And I love to read the magazines that have special monthly editions relating to the holidays. Let's say it's Easter. um, I just marvel at the creativity of some of these designers that are out there, and with their imaginations, how they can put those imaginations to good use. And also the photographers and the writers, that give us the visualizations and describe those. I mean, they really do an outstanding job. A lot of these magazines do an outstanding job with their presentations about the holidays, particularly as it relates to food. Now, I'm not sure why. Here's the thing. I'm a human being. I love food. Who doesn't love food? And I love food so as it relates to celebrating. I mean, come on. Um, I love how food is paired with celebration. I mean, that in itself is a wonderful thing, and it could be dangerous too. It can be dangerous. I know when I'm celebrating, when something is new, and I'm wanting to celebrate something, I think food is a natural accompaniment to whatever I'm celebrating, the fun in the moment. And I'm sure that's probably not the greatest thing. In a way, food is fuel. And there are ways that people and marketing agencies romanticize food, and um, and so it ends up taking on a lot more meaning than it really probably ought to have. And for that reason, foods get sold, and purchased, which is great for trade, great for economics, but not necessarily good for your waistline. Yeah. In fact, oh, excuse me. I think it's I think it's fascinating how in our culture we romanticize food as much as we do. I mean, really, there are foods associated with, like I was talking about earlier, the holidays, and how we romanticize celebrations through food, and how I can reminisce about holidays, and a good portion of my reminiscences reminisce of my reminiscing is related to food, which is hilarious. Um, Look, here's the thing: humans are hungry. We just are. Our brains, like I mentioned, utilize lots of glucose, and our bodies also, especially particularly if we're very active, utilize lots of glucose, and we need sources of glucose in order to survive and thrive and reproduce on this planet. So food is definitely a primary consideration. I mean, we have to eat. I mean, we don't have to eat, but it is tradition to eat 3 times a day, which is a lot of times. It's a lot of times, ladies and gentlemen. It's not like once, although we could eat just once. A lot of people do. What is it? OMAD or something like that, 1 meal a day. I've never been tempted by that particular diet, by the way. it always, it always, from my perspective, it always seemed a little bit excessive. It's like I can only imagine what life would be like if I had just 1 meal a day to put down, say 2,000 calories. That's a lot. Oh, excuse me. That's a lot of calories to put down in 1 meal. 2,000. I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, imagine if an apple's like 100 calories. If I wanted to eat 2,000 calories in apples, I'd have to eat what, 20 calories. That's a lot of 20 apples. That's a lot of apples. And how long would it take me to eat 20 apples if I was going to have that as a meal? Well, let me tell you, it would take me 20 hours would take me 2 hours to eat. At least 2 hours to eat 20 apples. It might even take me 3 hours to eat 20 apples. I don't know if I can eat 20. I think that's optimistic to imagine that I could eat 20 apples in one day. Now, here's the thing. I love apples, and I eat apples every day. I eat a lot of apples, 2 or 3 apples a day, which I think is a lot of apples. That averages out to like an apple a meal, which in my mind is a lot of apples. which is fine. I love apples. They're very convenient, and but my point is that 1 meal a day just sounds too excessive. I don't know. I don't know how people do that. I mean, how do you have like a salad, right? Something balanced. How do you have a balanced meal, like a soup and a salad and a main entree and a dessert? How do you have that all in one meal, one time a day? I mean, and reach your calorie requirements for that day. I just don't see how that's possible. I mean, I think what would happen for me if I had to keep, say, my meals down to an hour or something like that out of one day, I would have to eat fairly high calorie foods in order to do 1 meal a day. I mean, I couldn't have a big salad, like a Seinfeldian big salad. I couldn't have a big salad because there wouldn't be enough calories to hold me over until the next day. So I just don't see how it's practical to have one meal a day. Otherwise, you'd have to like blend it up and just have all your meal as smoothie. I don't know how. I don't know how people do one meal a day, unless they extend that meal over like 4 hours, which should not be allowed. No, then it's more like intermittent fasting, right? Where you got like a 4 hour or 8 hour window or something like that. Then that, which is a little more reasonable. I think maybe like a 12-hour window is pretty reasonable. Where let's say you start eating breakfast at 6 a.m. and you finish eating dinner at 6 p.m. or something like that. I mean, that's pretty reasonable. That's what a 12-hour window. Um, so yeah, I've never really been drawn to one meal a day. It just doesn't sound like something that's feasible or even healthy. I mean, I really can't see how that is a eating pattern is that someone can use long term. It just seems to me like it could go south in a bad direction real fast. I know, yeah, yeah. Especially if the rule is I can eat anything I want one meal a day. Then I see it being really problematic. Like, okay, well, I got to get all these calories in a single meal. So that means I have to eat foods with a very high calorie density. I mean, that would lead me to choosing foods like pizza and burritos and probably not the best food to be eating. Like it would lead me to the very high density foods, and I would ignore foods with uh, lower density. So I'd probably ignore completely salad or lettuce, which would be very unfortunate. A lot of the cruciferous vegetables are low calorie, so that means I wouldn't be eating like broccoli or cauliflower or Brussels sprouts or cabbage, because if I was having one meal a day, I wouldn't necessarily want to eat foods like that because um, I wouldn't meet my caloric requirements for that day. So anyway, yeah, the one meal a day thing is not that tempting to me. And believe it or not, nor is intermittent fasting. I'm not feeling it, friend. I'm not feeling it. I don't. Now, I'm grateful. I'm glad that people find their way, and that whether it's one meal a day or intermittent fasting, other people can do what they wish, and they have full reign, in my opinion. And I'm glad that they do it. And I think a lot of people have found success that way, and I'm so glad for them. I really am totally glad for them, and I encourage them to continue. Absolutely, if it works for them, more power to you. It's just not something that's ever grabbed me as being something that I could do in good conscience because for all those reasons, yeah, I'm not sure I could just sort of. I'm not a big fan of intuitive eating, and I like to eat according to a plan, and if I intuitively ate, um, I would eat a lot of cake, a lot of cake and ice cream. Let me tell you, truthfully, that's my intuition. That is what I want. I want pizza and cake. I want a lot of it. So I know those foods aren't good for me long term. So I'm really not sure that I could pull something like that off. Um, Now, I also am quite aware I might be mischaracterizing intuitive eating, and for that I apologize. Again, I might be ignorant of that particular concept. I know it's been formalized by a lot of our authors who are focused on diet and exercise, and I just haven't read those books. So yeah, I'm explaining why I'm ignorant of intuitive eating. But what I've gleaned just from articles on the internet and things like that, I'm not sure. I really don't think that I'd be that interested. I'm just I prefer more of a structured approach where there are like green light foods, red light foods, and yellow light foods in the middle, and that portion control is a real kind of thing. Like I mentioned, I like the structure. I can operate within a structure as it relates to foods. If there's no structure, no fences, around foods, well, yeah, that would pretty much set me up for disaster. I think I'm not sure why that is, other than my own personality traits. Um, I get enthused by certain foods sometimes, and if there weren't guardrails, um, I might I might easily go overboard. Um, yeah, yeah, definitely. I get enthused. Like I have this idea, like cheesecake, pop into my mind, and this has happened before. It's not happening now, but it happened before when it's just someone says the word cheesecake, and I start thinking, oh, cheesecake, and then a few moments later, I think cheesecake again about this or that, and I wonder what the history of cheesecakes are is, and and then I start. It's like a snowball that begins to roll, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it's like I'm all about cheesecake. I want cheesecake, and it's just so random. It's just totally random. And the very next day, or even the very next hour, it could be something entirely different, like pears or apricots or nectarines, and all someone has to say is the word, or it's so my mind is just so it just sort of skips um, from topic to topic, totally normal, and it's just. But there's no telling where my thought process is going to lie when it comes to food and meals. So I do prefer a more structured approach so that there's just some semblance of reasonableness when it comes to food. Because I don't want to eat okra every day, all day. Anyway, or Brussels sprouts. Yeah, because I need a little structure. Maybe a little more structure than most. Like I said, I'm just the human animal. I'm afraid I'm not that special, and as it relates to things like that, my genetic code is essentially unchanged from early proto-humans that lived more than 200,000 years ago. My genome has been essentially static. Um, so anyway, I just think that's kind of funny to contemplate. And so basically, from my perspective, I am still a human, so walking the savannas, and where scarcity is the rule. And for me, if there's abundance everywhere, um, um, like in a buffet, I'm prone to eat cake and cake and ice cream. So I need to produce like an artificial scarcity, and that's when I eat the best. And that's what I notice I eat the best. Like when I impose an artificial scarcity, when I create structure around what I eat, what happens is I'm like I create. It's like I paint on a canvas, and I'm choiceful about the colors that I use to paint on the canvas. If there were no rules, I might just be slinging mud at the wall or something like that. But if there is some structure, um, then I come up with beautiful Rembrandts as it relates to food. And I'm quite happy about the directions I go with when it comes to structured eating plans. So that's where I'm right now. Who knows? Maybe later it'll change. Anyway, that's just a little peek into the exciting world of Miguel. So anyway, thank you, by the way, for bearing with me. And I'm excited for this holiday season that's coming up, and excited to see what happens as the summer unfolds over the coming months. You know, we just hit June 21st, the solstice. And I mean, how exciting is it to know about that we're in summer, and all the water parks are going to start opening up, and people are going to be just going to the beach during the summer vacation. It's just going to be great. So I'm definitely looking forward to the summer season and the holidays in it. And I think it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful evening, and I'll talk to you later.